White House, the Reagan Ranch, a private tour. That was amazing. So we'll be transitioning to discussing the very present war on women. And I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our speaker, Miss Elisha Krauss. Ms. Krauss is a conservative commentator, journalist, writer, and podcaster. Currently, she's the host and co-creator of the Washington Examiner Newsmaker Series. Krauss previously hosted a morning drive radio show in Los Angeles with Shapiro for 4 years. She was also a co-host and contributor at the Daily Wire for the Ben Shapiro Show. Additionally, she co-hosted the Ricochet Ladybrains podcast with the rotating cast of fellow exceptional conservative ladies. Krauss previously produced the syndicated Sean Hannity Radio Show for 7 years. She has also worked with Truth Revolt as a grassroots organizer and writer. Additionally, she was the PragerU Director of Outreach and ran a congressional campaign in her home state of Oklahoma. Krauss grew up in southeastern Oklahoma, and I must proudly say she's a fellow homeschooled child. She grew up with her father, who had long-term military service and was a corporate pilot. She then moved to New York at 18 to attend college and became the youngest radio producer at ABC. During her freshman year, before dropping out to pursue a full-time career in media. Her media appearances include CNN, NBC, MSNBC, AONN, Newsmax, TV, Fox News, and so much more. Krauss has a special place in her heart for radio and podcasting. She enjoys talking about issues relating to the pro-life point of view, the Second Amendment, traditional family values, school choice, small government, free speech, feminism, and professional growth. You can't really ask for much more than that. Elisha is one of the very few still strong conservatives living in LA, California. She lives with her husband and her four children, which I think this is one of the most exceptional things of all. They were all born naturally at home. So please join me in warmly welcoming Ms. Krauss.
Hello. Good afternoon. I get the pleasure of speaking to y'all during that, post-lunch slump that you're experiencing. Hopefully I don't bore you too much. How amazing is the ranch, by the way? This is being recorded, so hopefully we're past the statute of limitations, but our now 10-year-old, when she was 6, my husband let her drive a truck, on the ranch, and now she's like, can we go back to the Reagan Ranch so I can drive again? And I'm like, that's my girl. Got to give them a little country, even though they're in the city, right? So I, trying to be really interesting today, my topic is, I think, very applicable, especially for all of you brave, bright, talented young ladies. And I'm sure that maybe in this group or maybe via social media or maybe on your campus, there's somebody that you have a girl crush on, right? I mean, it's very possible. The feeling of admiration or respect or interest or even a slight twinge of jealousy, but not in the bitter way of just the I want to be like that gal way. I have a few girl crushes. One of them spoke to you yesterday, Lisa Daftari. She's a great friend and just brilliant, right? She knows her stuff and is not afraid to speak the truth. Love her. She's also in LA with me, so we're keeping up the fight. Condi Rice. I mean, come on, the woman speaks 5 languages. She's on the LPGA tour now, or board now. She taught herself how to golf in her 40s and makes par all the time. I just started learning how to play golf, and y'all, it's bad. Mindy Kaling, I appreciate for her creative and comedic genius, right? Zendaya, because her red carpet looks are always flawless. Evangeline Lilly, because OG fan of Lost, she can pull off the short hair and recently, has kind of rebuked and rebuffed the Hollywood norm, right? That takes some guts. Bethany Hamilton, who I've had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing before because of her incredible physical strength, being a pro female surfer, typically in the top 3 with one arm, and just the joyfulness and veracity of which she decides to pursue life, right? So pretty much it can be anything about a woman that makes you go, that's cool. I want to be like that. And pretty often I talk to my girlfriends about women that we know and admire for reasons that we also wish to achieve, like having professional and personal, but more so professional success without pulling the woman card, right? We want to be seen as working alongside with of our male counterparts. Sometimes, and I've had to deal with it myself, and I'm sure you guys have too, you'll have to deal with misogyny and sexism and comments and annoyances, right, from all sides. But never using the fact that we have a hoo-ha as a way to get ahead. Because I don't think that you guys want to achieve something just because of your sex, right? You want to be able to achieve it for your experience and your smarts and your wit and what you bring to the table that's different and unique. And in my opinion, those on the left are the ones who make it more difficult for women to succeed by our own merits and efforts when they try to categorize us as being less than men, but also men are awful. They're the ones who claim that they want to celebrate us and ourselves, yet they weaken our willpower and our skills when they regulate how many of us must sit on a board like NASDAQ and the state of California are doing. That California-based companies have to, I think, by the year 2030, have a certain percentage of women that are on their board. Are those women going to be experienced? Who knows? Or making us the single issue voters that the left often likes to do, right? And they say that the only issue that we can care about is reproductive rights. I think that you can be pro-equality, not equity, equality, and pro-women without victimizing us and without minimizing our contributions to society. But unfortunately, we're either pawns in a political game, or they sometimes try to pander to us because they must think we're idiots. On this year's International Women's Day, I was reminded in Instagram posts, promotional emails, headlines of articles, media coverage about the importance of International Women's Day that was also used to promote their businesses. But only if you click through to buy their product could you find out more information about their inspiring female CEO. Or the best ones, though, were the people that didn't have any females in the C-level, and then they had to, talk to an accountant about why International Women's Day was so important. Not belittling the lady in accounting, but it's just kind of funny that as they're trying to say, yay, all women, they had to dig real deep at those liberal companies to find some women to feature. And I think a lot of women on Women's Day and a lot of women on Election Day and a lot of women throughout the country fall into this trap that celebrities, politicians, and the media who love to highlight how horrible it is for women here in the United States while using their agendas for political and often monetary gain. I mean, I don't need to know what Third Love, who's a bra company, by the way, they wanted to give me a discount on Women's Day. Hulu kept offering me comedies made for her, by her. Disney and Netflix offered me rom-coms highlighting female stars. I mean, kind of stereotypical, right? Care of, who have ads on every channel, offered me $10 off. The list goes on and on. H&M, the Books, a pickle company. What the heck? And of course, on International Women's Day, Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States, the woman who is closer to the presidency than any other woman has been in American history, said on X, formerly known as Twitter, that we have a long way to go for women in the United States. First Lady Jill Biden presented a Woman of Courage Award at the White House on the front lawn to a biological man. And the side that claims that they want to highlight the differences, that like to categorize people by victimization groups, right? Can't even define what we are. And it's really frustrating when members of our own sex, and I say sex and not gender because gender is a social construct and there are only 2 scientific sexes that are assigned to you at conception. So I'll be saying that a lot. It's really frustrating when members of our own sex, I think, become sellouts for a political career, personal gain, popularity, or money. Like Justice Jackson, she herself a woman, who was unable to define what a woman was in front of a committee. or models and actresses who lament the alleged horrors of how awful the United States is, and what abouting everything that happens in other countries, right? And lauding regulations and restrictions that actually hurt women. The left often says that women matter, but I actually don't believe them. Because if we mattered, they'd say something when our fellow sisters were being arrested and beaten for removing their head coverings in Iran. They'd demand justice when Boko Haram kidnaps girls to serve as child brides. They'd support a sovereign Jewish nation, whose very good place, by the way, safest place in the Middle East for women, LGBTQ, minorities, against terrorists who wanted to eradicate Jews and who raped, tortured, and hunted down women last week. They'd stand up against porn, actually. And it makes me sad that via TikTok, on OnlyFans, and Pornhub, we continue to fetishize women. And the left says that that's okay. It's empowering, right, when we do this. Thankfully, now there's a growing trend even amongst secularists, though, that are pointing out the dangers of that. Recently, I have 3 girls and 1 boy, baby boy. He's 3 months old. And he was 6 weeks old, and he and my husband and I went down to downtown LA, which in and of itself is a brave feat. No. And we attended a free press debate on the sexual revolution and whether or not the sexual revolution was a pro or a con for women everywhere, but specifically here in the United States. And it was interesting how even with the secularists on stage, even with the women that were very pro the secular revolution, they were able to acknowledge something that leftist politicians and celebrities still will not, is that the sexual revolution in some ways helped women when it came to voting and C-suites and, decisions that they were able to make of being home or in the office, right? Of changes that happened on a federal and state level. There could be some arguments that it was a good thing for women, right? But even the ones that were so pro the sexual revolution and the women's freedom and burning of bras were like, yeah, it actually, women aren't like dudes. It didn't benefit us that much. It fetishized us and talked about the dangers of porn. Yet leftists continually to culturally tell us that we must sell ourselves in order to have real self-expression and freedom. That women who go nude on camera are topless, like Emrata, that churn out television shows, music, and movies that justify making us objects instead of equals. And that's not pro-woman. If the left cared, I think they'd speak out against political leaders like a Putin, right? Like a Trudeau even. But they only care about that if they can use it as a political stunt or a remark or a comment or excuse of, oh, well, it's Putin's fault the gas prices are high. Not your own leaders. It's Putin's fault. Or, Putin's the one that rigged an election. Instead of talking about the style, I don't know if any of you remember, but the last Olympic round, Kim Jong-un's sister went on behalf of North Korea, and every single mainstream media outlet was like, wow, look at her little cheerleaders that follow her around. Look at the style that she has. How inspiring. What a powerful woman. Instead of acknowledging the horrible atrocities and how she's just a PR stunt for her dictatorial brother. They would have called out the devastatingly mismanaged and fatal Afghanistan withdrawal, where women are now returned to not being recognized as peers, have lost their businesses, are not even able to own, operate, or you cannot no longer have a beauty salon in the country of Afghanistan. They're given a timeline to shut down or else. And of course, education is no longer allowed for girls beyond elementary school. And they're unable to vote, obtain a driver's license. And the left said nothing. If they cared, they, instead of working with places like China and lauding them and sending our, tech CEOs over there to bow down to them for financial gain, they would speak out against what China is doing. Where, by the way, women were told what to do with their bodies for decades, that you could only have a child. They've recently reversed that because they've realized, oh, shoot, we're running out of people and our people aren't getting married and, we need to increase our population. So once again, they're telling women what to do about their bodies. The left doesn't address that. Or, of course, the many nations that value the birth of a son more than a daughter. And even though sex-selective abortions are illegal in these places, they occur over and over again. They tell us that if the left really cared about women, they would address the dangers and the horrors of hormonal birth control and abortion. And they would empower women to become a mother and pursue everything that she wants to do. So I loved it. Like, I love it when celebrities in Hollywood totally don't realize that they're actually espousing pro-life things, like Rihanna at the Super Bowl, right? Rihanna in Vogue with her newborn baby. I don't know how she got those leather leggings on. I'm a little bit jealous about it. But I actually love it whenever there's a new royal baby announcement. Why? Because they, deep down inside, it is an intrinsic human thing to want to applaud and support precious life. And it should be. But if they really wanted to, instead of applauding Michelle Williams when she gets up at the Oscars and says, I couldn't have done this today, I couldn't have gotten this award unless I had had an abortion, they'd be assisting and helping the single mom in South LA or Detroit, Michigan, or New York City with the highest rate of minority abortions in the country. But they don't. They have told women, oh, in order to be equal, you have to have as much sex as men. And in order to do that safely, you must be on hormonal birth control. One of my favorite Instagram followers, who I also have a girl crush on, is a woman who calls herself Mama Wilder, who accurately stated, quote, the idea that we can suppress ovulation for decades, beginning in adolescence with no consequences on our brains or fertility, has got to be one of the biggest health scams in human history. And we've seen, only so recently, all of the risks that it is for a woman. Increase in anxiety, increase in suicidality, increase in weight gain, increase in depression, fertility issues. List goes on and on. She also accurately pointed out something that the left never wants to address. Quote, that men who insist that their partners flood their bodies with synthetic hormones, or I would argue obtain an abortion, that cause depression because putting on a condom proves too difficult to them, don't deserve to be having sex with any woman ever. And it's true, girls. I would approach things from the Judeo-Christian point of, have safe sex, get married, be faithful, and have lots of babies because they're really awesome. And you're supposed to, go forth and prosper and procreate, right? Be fruitful and multiply is my argument, but that's another speech for another day. But the left and culture would tell you, no. You should sleep with that guy who is willing to pay for your abortion. That doesn't seem like a gem of a human being to me that deserves your time, your effort, your emotions, and your body. If women mattered to the left, they would empower us to keep our children, to conquer the world while raising the next generation. It's so empowering when you see and can help a woman live out her dreams while also being a mother. Those are the stories they would be highlighting. If they cared, they'd pay for maternity leave at their own companies. But no. After the Dobbs decision, you didn't see them saying, you know what, we're going to step up and we're going to pay for maternity leave or even paternity leave. We're going to encourage people to foster and adopt. We're going to give you 3 months paid off. Or we're going to give you insurance incentives and bonuses if you decide to keep your baby. Alas, they decided, we'll pay for you to fly across state lines to go to a horrible place like California where they're okay with aborting babies up to 24 weeks because, we're pro-women. If the left cared about women, they'd go after deadbeat dads. Lynn Fitch, who is the Mississippi Attorney General, she's amazing. I met her a year and a half ago at a live action gala, and it was her team, of course, that took that decision to the Supreme Court, that case to the Supreme Court. A team of mostly women, by the way, working moms themselves, that said, we're going to fight this. We're going to take it to SCOTUS. And Lynn and her team, they are now working with state legislators to make sure that the laws that are actually on the books that say that dads need to pay child support occur. And we've seen in pro-life states, thank God, across the country, they're now saying, you know what? Child support should start from the moment of conception. It shouldn't be when the kid pops out. There should be some financial responsibility and accountability from the moment that that baby is conceived, for the 40 weeks that that baby goes to term, for whatever occurs in a hospital or birth center or home birth. What about lactation consultants or formula care? And if women mattered, those private companies would do those things and would support those things. I think if women mattered, they'd also recognize that a woman's greatest equalizer, because of our differences with men, is a gun. They'd support school choice for everyone, but it would specifically benefit girls, by the way. They've done studies that show how much girls benefit from the opportunity when they are given school choice. And we all know that specifically in America, I mean, people come from other countries here to partake in our education system. It is one of the best, specifically our higher education system, despite the leftism and anti-Semitism that is everywhere now. But people, your financial future is often determined by your educational success. So why limit girls and women from having the best opportunity and having a choice? I think that they would limit government from starting businesses. Women are the largest demographic of small business owners and operators. And a small business, by the way, my mother is a successful small businesswoman. She has about 50 employees. A small business, according to like the federal government, when they look at financial reviews and everything and how it affects the economy, is businesses that have 150 employees or less. That's a big impact on the economy that women control. And yet leftists time and time again increase taxes and regulations and licensing and certification. That hurts who? Innovation, immigrants, women. If they cared about women, they'd actually address the systemic problems with modern medicine. Did you know that for every study in women's reproductive health, about women's reproductive health, including fertility, ovulation, labor and delivery, menopause, premenopause, for every one study that there's done for that, of all of women's health, there's 10 studies done on erectile dysfunction. You know who controls a lot of the medical community and educational studies and medical studies on America's universities? The left. They would support informed consent from everything from birth control to a vaccine that we are now seeing how it damaged women. They'd support any woman, I would argue, attempting to be the first president to represent America on the national stage. They don't do it if it's Carly Fiorina or Nikki Haley, right? They only do it if it's their gal Hillary. They would recognize that transitioning minors and the dangerous and lifelong effects of blocking hormones in prepubescent girls is bad for us and life-altering. I could go on and share with you all of the disparities of how society and the left says that they are with us women, says that they want to help and support girls, but the ways that they don't. All the money that they spend to shut us down. All of the support they give to groups like Black Lives Matter. Which, by the way, if Black Lives Matter actually focused on what is killing black women in the country, everyone would be marching in the streets. Instead, they stand for the eradication of Israel and Jews, and I would argue probably the eradication of law enforcement. Did you know that black women in the United States, during childbirth, die at a rate that is 3 times higher than white women like myself? The number of black women in the country that die during childbirth every single year is almost 10-fold more than black men that die at the hand of police officers. That's a war on women that they're doing nothing about. And I bring up these disparities to show you, don't fall for the trap. Recognize that they obviously say one thing and do another, to shine a light on how they don't really care. But I think really to point out, even though most of us here are political nerds, like myself, I'm assuming, you decided to spend a gorgeous weekend in Santa Barbara listening to me chat instead of being out at the beach, that you don't just have to be in politics to make a difference, right? You can be, I think the truest form of feminism is a woman choosing what she does and does not want to do. And that can be being a stay-at-home mom. That can be being a small business owner. That can be becoming an OBGYN or a midwife. Maybe going and developing studies to help make change. Going into fashion or finance, technology. And I think that it's important to recognize that even though politics matter, even though culture matters, there's so many jobs and roles and places of influence that you can have that are outside of those spheres. And I think that you guys are experiencing, right? I'm experiencing it in LA. Everybody's like, well, why don't you leave? Why don't you go away? What are you going to do? I really don't want you to get discouraged because you can make a difference. And I think that it's important to, you guys are so young. You have so much life ahead of you. You have so much opportunity for growth and personal achievement and success that you today prioritize like where you want to be and what you want to do, but prioritize the personal over the professional. Because the professional can come later, right? But you having that individual independence and confidence and plan of what you want to do with your life, and then having the professional after that is so important. And it's so vital. And I can't tell you how many stories. I want it to get easier, but I don't think it will. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer. Because I can't tell you how many stories or emails or text messages or friends of friends that come up to me and comment about discrimination and sexism and difficulties and harassment that conservative women are facing at liberal companies. And how they just like fight because they should. Companies that claim to, support women are the same ones that behind closed doors are the worst to them. Of course, in schools across the country, as you guys are experiencing at the grade high school levels, so parents don't matter anymore, right? And then at higher levels, Christians don't matter, Jews don't matter, women don't matter, First Amendment doesn't matter. Don't even mention the Second Amendment or they'll call you a domestic terrorist, right? These are places where you guys are. These are places where you are going. These are places that you can actually influence. And I would argue being here in California and seeing the stories that I do and hearing these stories from young women all across the country, unfortunately, there's nowhere to run and hide. And statistically, women, they actually say are more risk averse. It's just the way we are. It's one of the many ways we are different than men. Men have this level, not bashing men here, but there is this level of like narcissism that men possess that they just think they can go and do anything. It's like how everybody fails up in Hollywood and politics. I wish I had the cojones for that. And that because women are more risk averse, we are less likely to make those decisions to take a personal risk to run for office or ask for that raise or apply for that job promotion or to maybe even go into an area which might be like an uphill battle, like salmon swimming upstream. But I'm here today to tell you that you can. And there probably is a cross correlation of what you are good at doing and what you are also passionate about doing. And you shouldn't be afraid to pursue that. Because I think that women have a lot to bring to this group, to this city, this county, state, country, to society, to all of the areas of influence that the left has ignored and clearly doesn't care. And that we are unique and different, and that's okay. Because I don't want us to be like men. Men cannot be women and women cannot be men, nor do we want them to be. There are so many ways in which we are biologically different, and there are so many ways that we can have an impact. Did you know that women have stronger immune systems than men? We have a better sense of smell. We're hypersensitive to higher pitched sounds. Obviously, we have a 28-day hormone cycle compared to men's 24-hour one. which is why many experts say that we need more sleep, which I want to punch them in the face because I have a 3-month-old. We have better capability of having memory, like memorization specifically when it comes to educational things and people, which is why they think that women make better bosses, that at companies where women are the managers or in the C-suites, employees and productivity are higher than when there's a man at the helm. Once again, not bashing men, just highlighting the positivity of our differences, right? We can see a larger spectrum of colors, by the way, which is maybe why women tend to be creative and in arts and entertainment, because we are able to see and recognize a larger spectrum of colors. The person with the highest IQ ever recorded was a woman. We're better at reading emotions. Duh. We are the majority of voters in the country. Did you know that? The majority of voters in the country. And women, married and single, make the financial and educational decisions for the majority of U.S. households. From what you're buying at the grocery store to which home you are purchasing. The man might be bringing home the bacon, but the woman is the one that is spending the money and making those financial decisions. And like I mentioned, we're the largest starters and owners of small businesses in the country. What George W. Bush and other economists have called the backbone of the American economy is controlled and operated by women. And now more women are going to college, graduating with a higher education, specifically doctorates or law degrees, and own more bank accounts and are saving more for their future than their male peers. I hope that doesn't discourage you when you're going out there to find a husband, because he should have a bank account and a job. And I could go on. And if you haven't noticed, I think that women are equal and incredible and valuable members of society, not only here in America, but everywhere. And the glaringly obvious truth is that men need us and we need them. We are both equally needed for the different roles in order for our society to thrive and grow. We are not inferior to them and they are not inferior to us. They are not incompetent. Most men are worthy of respect. But I would say the same for women, that our differences make us better and our differences are our strengths. So I know it's often in our nature to hide. I'm a people pleaser, believe it or not. I guess the older I become, the less fearful I am of pissing people off. But men are not us, despite what they have successfully built for centuries throughout society. Also, throughout centuries in society, you see really incredible and strong women from biblical times on, from the Revolutionary War, Civil War, the female spies of World War II. Everything that we were able to build as a nation back at home, while people like my grandmothers were, painting pantyhose lines on their, the back of their legs because they wanted to appear ladylike because the military needed the nylon, right? Throughout history, there are incredible women that have come alongside men and vice versa. They built great things, but they can't be us. We need the sane, we need the caring, we need the educated, we need the smart, we need the savvy, we need the quietly strong, sweet strength of women to make a change. Because there's very clearly, and I hope I laid it out okay, I only had 1 cup of coffee this morning. There's very clearly, from the left in society, a war on women. And I think that we women need to lead the way in fighting it. Thank you very much. I think now we get to do Q&A. And it doesn't just have to be about the speech. It could be about magnetic lashes, what I'm streaming on Netflix. I don't know. Whatever you guys have.
We have time for a few questions.
And if you're comfortable, can you state your name and where you're from?
Yeah. Okay. My name's Nicole Allen. I'm originally from Kansas City, but I go to school in Arizona.
Okay.
I guess, so you're from, or you live in Los Angeles right now, mm-hmm. right? Would you recommend conservatives to be in states like California or to move there? Or for the ones who are already there, what does that look like?
I would say, I love this question. I would say, so during COVID, when the Black Lives Matter protests were like breaking into our church and armed deacons were outside and helicopters were circling the sky, and there was also like that apocalyptic orange that was in the sky because of the wildfires. I looked at my husband and I was like, what are we doing here? And he so very wisely said, because we had so many people that left. You know, I'd previously been at Daily Wire and a whole company left of friends and colleagues and employees, right? And he was like, we're not going to flee in fear, but we're not going to stay because of pride. And I think, unfortunately, in the conservative movement, there can be people that are very insular. And being a mom, I understand my priority is my husband and my children. And then beyond that, my parents and his mom and my nieces, right? But in that, we can be so insular that we're only thinking of ourselves, and we tend to run too much. And we tend to hide too much, and we tend to want to go where it's a little easier. And I would say that my children are not missionaries, but in a way I kind of view, and we thankfully have a great community and little bubble where we're able to keep them safe from a lot of what's happening in the world and talk to them at the right times about it in an age-appropriate manner. So I'm not saying move to California and stick your kid in LAUSD. But I would say that if you are called to be in an industry that is based here in California and you have a heart for the area and you love beautiful weather 350 days out of the year, then yeah, you should come here. Because our late, not so great governor, Jerry Brown, once infamously said, and it's very true, as goes California, so goes the nation. And the left for generations plans ahead and thinks long term and is in fashion and technology and politics. Everything that the DNC does on a national level, that the left does on a national level and in other states across the country, is tried and tested and created here in California. Educational decisions, even like business decisions, trends, right? They all start here. I used to live in New York City. I mean, obviously, it's a financial and fashion mecca of the world, but the longer I spend in California, the more I see how much power is here. So I would actually encourage any young person, I say, to move to New York or Los Angeles for a year. No matter what industry you're in, no matter what part of the country you're from. I think everyone, before they are married and have children, should experience a major city in the United States for an entire year. And you don't have to stick around. But I think it's important to see like what it's like and experience that and have that personal and professional growth. And then I would encourage people, maybe don't go to like where it's easy. Go to where you're supposed to be. Go to where you're called to be. And be open to that maybe not being the easiest place. Because as goes California, so goes the nation. And this stuff is trickling down to little places in Kansas and Michigan and Florida, everywhere. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Isela. I live in La Mirada right now for school, but I'm from Oakland, California. I was wondering, like, as a family, what you guys don't pay for. Like, what will you abstain from paying for? Like, things such as Netflix, things such as, like, different businesses or Disneyland. Because I know that my family, we tried. We tried to boycott those businesses, but it's really difficult. So I was wondering how important that is to you and your family.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to voting with your dollar, so to speak, we don't have Walmart in LA County. Actually, we do. I take that back. There's one. It's a 45-minute drive from me. So Target is the closest pit stop to pick up diapers and wipes, right? And I have friends that work at Target that believe like we do, that experienced horrible things during that time. So what I do is during June, I just don't go to those types of stores, especially with my children. And I'm not against people using their dollar to express how they feel, right? When I worked in campaigns, one of the things, and it probably still holds true today, you could ask somebody in marketing or somebody that works on the Hill, of like, for every phone call probably represents 100 voters. You know, every email represents like 200, or, you know, like it goes on and on. It's actually, the phone call is the hardest to make, so it's probably more. The email's the easiest, so it's probably less. A written letter, ooh, big deal. And so I think that speaking up in a staid, unemotional, polite, and professional way does a lot. Because I do know that at lots of corporations, whether it's Disney, whether it's Target, whether it's Netflix, there are people that are like us. And there are people that, even if they're not of our political persuasion, are just kind of, they care about making money. I think Reed Hastings at Netflix cares about making money. You know, I think Jeff Bezos cares about making money. And so money can talk. But I also think that, are we going to then go live on the prairie and have a homestead? And there are some people that do this, and I love their Instagram stories. It looks lovely. I just couldn't do it myself. That are going to, you know, buy the guns and the Berkeys and the chicken coops and make their own clothes? Or are you going to infiltrate and influence? And you can't have, I mean, I know there's a pillow company and a shaving company from every side now, right? But is there a legitimate entertainment company that is? Is there a makeup company? Is there a grocery store? I mean, home good, like the list could go on and on and on. So I guess I personally struggle. I have people that are on both sides of the aisle that I'm friends with, and I have people on both sides of this issue that are like 100% gonna boycott, never spending $1 there again. And then I have other people that are like, I'm going to shop wherever I want, whenever I want. And I respect and understand the arguments for both sides. So I think that has to be an individual decision that you make, depending on what it is. I know one of the things that I have not done is I will not purchase from a baby company or a diaper company or a formula company that also gives money to like a Planned Parenthood. I'm literally, no. I'll find somewhere else, right? But I still go to Target, and we've still brought our girls to Disneyland. But I don't judge people that are like, no, I'm not doing that either. I'm sorry. It's not, I think that the older I get, the more nuanced some of these arguments are. And I think that it's important to have a conversation about it and figure out what the long game is going to be. And I think that speaking with your dollar can make a difference, but also just communicating directly with the company can make a huge difference too. Because I know what was happening in some of those rooms based on people that I know at some of those companies. And the loudest voices get the attention, not always the ones that they agree with. Yeah. You're welcome.
How are you doing? I'm Janae Mitchell, senior, go to Clemson University in South Carolina, and I just wanted to ask you about the natural birth, how you heard of it, and how it went, and how does my mom deliver 2 at home?
That's awesome.
So, advocate, but want to know.
I'm not an unassisted childbirth. I think you should have a medical professional there. Yeah, so I have had 2 midwives this last time, but midwives and every other time. I honestly came to it because I was 32 weeks pregnant with our firstborn and toured a hospital in downtown Los Angeles because I knew I wanted a natural water birth. And at the time, there was only one hospital that was allowing that in LA. Now it's more common. This was 10 years ago. I'm really dating myself, guys. My husband and I walked out of the hospital, and he was like, so what do you think about home birth? And I was like, sweet. And it ended up being more, I just moved out to start a radio job, and I just started a new job. So like the insurance hadn't kicked in. And it was like all this thing. It was more at the time financially beneficial to us to have the home birth. And statistically, most first-time moms don't. Most women have a hospital birth or birthing center birth first and then decide, oh, I'm comfortable, I can switch to this now. And so I knew of it because a childhood friend's mom had a home birth. And then just the more research I did, I felt I'm a very statistical person. And so I looked at the statistics of it. I knew I wasn't high risk. My midwife was incredibly experienced in dealing with emergent situations. You need that, I think, whether it's a doctor or a midwife. Like, you want somebody that's cool, calm, and confident, and isn't going to put you and baby at risk. And so I felt very comfortable with that. And I've loved it. Like, I cannot imagine it any other way now that I've had that experience. I personally hate hospitals. Jim Gaffigan has a great bit about hospital births on there, and they're like, and one of the lines like, "What, you wanted your wife to die?" You know, it's like the things that people say to you like when they find out you're having a home birth. But statistically, for me, every single time it was safe and fine. And I am not an athlete, as you can tell. And never played sports growing up. I was the music political nerd. And I have to say, it is very empowering and awesome and an insane adrenaline rush, emotional high when you have a baby. And I was you feel like Wonder Woman for the first 24 hours. Then you have to relax and heal. But it is pretty incredible. And I was lucky enough to be able to doula for a handful of friends throughout COVID that kind of, because of COVID, decided to do home births. And it's just amazing. That's another area in which I'm not saying men can't be OBGYNs, and male midwives are also still called midwives, by the way, although I don't know how many of them there are. But I think that birth is a beautiful space and an empowering space and a necessary space to be filled by women. I think that there's just something that occurs in a room when a fellow female is going through something and she has her sisters to back her up. Mentally, emotionally, physically, all of those things. I just think it's incredibly beautiful and empowering to see. And so I'm a fan of it. I can chronically overshare if you want that once we're wrapped up here. And I think that statistically it just worked for us and our family. And last thing I will say is the girls all said they wanted to be there for the birth of their brother, and it worked out for them to be there. And it was just really, really amazing. And statistically, they say that, unfortunately, here's another area where the left has screwed women. Statistically, based on what women see in Hollywood and movie and everybody's horror story of their birth, that women, something upwards of 2/3 of women are afraid of having a baby. They're afraid of going into labor because of what has been portrayed. And so I read a couple of studies before our son was born that talked about women, even if they themselves do not go on to have children, that they become more independent and self-empowered and self-confident when they witness a birth, because they are able to see, I think, just the physical, emotional, mental strength of their fellow woman. And so I selfishly wanted our girls to experience that, but I kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to put that on them. And each in their own time, in their own way, made it known that they were we want to be there when our brother's born, and they were all there, and it was magical. So, thanks.
That's all the time we have for questions. Thank you.